As long as we've been in our house, there's that man watching from the second-story window across the road. He seems to be there all the hours of the day, whether I'm leaving for work as a laborer at 5:45 in the morning, or I'm sneaking back home after a night out on the weekend. He's always been there, sitting up in a rocking chair, maybe sometimes even standing by the window. He just stares out, never moving, never doing anything, other than remaining completely still. I asked Mom and Dad about him, but they said they've never seen him. They have no idea who it is, and just assume the house was abandoned. The house being abandoned would make a lot of sense. The front fence was decaying, with its wooden slates missing and crumbling, whilst the paint on the frame was unrecognizable from what was probably a light cream. The front steps had tiles loose, and the mailbox overflowed with envelopes of varying ages. It would make sense to assume that the house was abandoned. But how can an abandoned house have a man up there by the window all the time? He could be a squatter. That would make some sense. But Mom and Dad would never see him, so I don't know how he's doing that. One day, I even pointed him out to Mom and Dad, only to have them say they didn't see him. I looked back, and he'd disappeared. I glanced away, and once Mom and Dad had hopped in the car, I looked again. He was back. So, I was sick of it. I walked up to the front fence, determined to go over the top. I vaulted it carefully, feeling the wood underneath me creak and sway under my weight. The front lawn had become overgrown, and the word lawn wasn't really the right one for it. It was littered with bottles and garbage, as well as with dead and dying patches of grass dotting it. Somehow, I had made it to the front door after almost slipping on a loose tile on the stairs up. I pressed the doorbell button. No ring. I rapped on the front door with my knuckles, wincing as splinters placed themselves into my hand. No response. I carefully peered around the front of the house, trying to look inside the windows, blocked by drawn curtains. I looked again at the door. Its hinges had grown rusty with disuse. Gently rubbing my finger down the hinge, I realized that there was no way this door would open, or had, possibly in years. I carefully trod down the stairs, and I was about to leave the house when I noticed it. It was a bit of wind which drew my attention to the creak of the side gate, left slightly ajar. Looking carefully to each side, I snuck down the side passage. I didn't even bother to check if the man was there in the window. I knew he'd be there. I got into the garden, to be greeted by a labyrinthine collection of plants, rubbish, and an old cubby house, which had long since been reclaimed by nature. The back door was rusted shut too, a flimsy old wire screen door, and a heavier wooden one behind it. I looked around, suddenly realizing that I'd never had any idea as to what had been in this backyard. I looked at the peeling paint along the back of the house, and the gray, dirty windows. Now that was a way in. There was a cracked window pane just above shoulder level, and looking to be just big enough for me to squeeze in. Reaching up to the window, I broke off all the glass I could, trying to make it possible for me to squeeze in. Grasping the bottom of the window frame, I jumped in, pulling myself forward. I winced as a remaining shard drew itself across my forearm, cutting along almost its entire length. I fell forward into the house, crashing down into a dusty, dark room. Grimacing, I wrapped my arm in the bottom of my shirt, gingerly wiping away any dirt and blood. Sitting hunched over there, it dawned on me. I'd broken into a house. Above my head, I heard something scraping on tiles. I wasn't alone, that was for sure. I looked up and recognized what room I was in. Dark, cool racks and bottles sitting in them. It was a wine cellar. I looked back up at the window. It was too high for me to reach inside here, so I got to my feet and walked through the house. It was dark and dusty. The entire house was dead. just so completely devoid of human life. I walked on up, past a set dinner table for 6 people, with 7 chairs. Spiderwebs connecting old crystal wine glasses at each place. I kept walking. The further I progressed into this house, the darker it got. I pulled out my phone. No reception. That was funny. I flicked on the flashlight, using it to cast a dim light just in front of me. My battery was low too. I wasn't feeling too confident about it. 5%. I stepped out of the dining room into another hallway. I spun the light on my phone around, seeing blank picture frames sit on the wall, and a cabinet at the end of it. 3%. I approached it and was inside. The top shelf was empty. I panned downwards with my light. They were filled with skulls. 1%. I realized what they were. 0%. The light went out, and it was completely black. I carefully looked around, trying to find some glint of light. I was totally disoriented. I placed my hand on the left wall and tried to slowly walk forward. As I turned, I saw a source of light and stopped. Slowly, I let my eyes adjust. From what I could make out, there were stairs in front of me, and a door which wasn't quite fully shut or quite fully open. If my mental plan of the house worked out, I hoped that'd be the house level he would be on. The one who was always watching me. I placed my hand on the dusty balustrade of the stair. Marveling at how ornate it felt in the near total darkness. I moved up the stairs and gently pushed on the door, sneaking inside. There he was, sitting in his chair looking directly at me. I stepped towards the back of the figure gingerly. The chair spun round without him moving, and I looked into his eyes. His muddy, gray eyes. Eyes set against his pale, pale green skin and jet black hair. He smiled with slightly crooked teeth and raised a single uncalloused hand. He waved to me, got up, ghosted past me, and slid out the door. The door clicked closed behind him. All I did was stand there motionless. It was hours before I could even get up the nerve to move anywhere. I saw Mom and Dad out in the front, heard them calling my name. I watched them go back into the house. It was only then when I moved. Painstakingly slowly, I labored towards the door and pulled. It wouldn't open, so I tried again. Nothing. I couldn't shift it, so I gave up and sat down on the chair for a bit. I saw my family leave every day. I saw police at my house asking where I'd been seen last. I saw family and loved ones visit my parents. I saw Mom and Dad leave every day, gradually graying and wrinkling, their gray eyes, once vibrant and full of life, getting darker and more lifeless with every day. I saw a for sale sign be put up. I saw Saturdays of house inspections. I saw the realtor, a slim young man with slicked brown hair parted to the side, as he placed a sold sticker on it. I saw my parents move away from me. I saw the new family. I saw new renovations, repainting the front of my old house. I saw the family move in. I saw the face of their young son, who was only 4, as he looked straight at me, and I looked at him. Many years have passed since then, but today, I saw him knock on the front door. He left, but he'll be back. Tomorrow, I'll see him inside my room, and then I'll be able to move on. He'll stay, though. He'll see. I'd once hoped he'd rescue me, but now I know I won't be rescued. It'll be a swap. It's the only way I can get myself out of here. And then one day, he'll look someone else in the eye, and they can take his place. You will see.